Well, good to see you again today, and happy International Tree Planting Day, even as Kenyans commemorate the flood victims. Now, our first story is going to talk about how to make anger work for you, a unique topic. As we continue about anger as our first story today about emotion, it occurs like a spark that is in your brain, almost like a flash and a fire that causes your blood to boil. But it manifests in different ways, from a brooding face to river or tears to scolds, screams or punch. You guessed it right. I'm talking about anger. Good afternoon. This is the ambassador. With me, your ambassador, Jennifer Macau. Now, as we continue with our story, scientists believe evolution gave us anger, but it has been hardwired into our brains over millions of years. Now, the frequency and intensity differ. For example, people can feel angry anywhere between once a day and few times a week. And 21% of workers, according to a study, frequently feel angry at work. And the remaining 79% not so much. And meanwhile, some countries are angrier than others. And the reasons vary as well, from conflicts into political economy or stress. But everyone experiences anger similarly, especially the time you feel shortchanged and the brain sounds as an alarm and your body thinks it is under a threat. This triggers the body to fight or flight response. It floods you with stress hormones and increases the heart rate and increases the breathing. And the body prepares for physical aggression. So if you want to fight someone when you are angry, it is because your body is urging you to do so. But there is a downside here. In most cases, it is not good for your health. According to a study, anger can adversely affect the health of blood vessels. It can chronically impair them, and it is not the first study of its kind. Anger is known to increase the risk of heart attack, stroke, hypertension, high blood pressure, poor metabolism, and respiratory problems. It can fuel chronic stress or trauma and also interfere with work and relations. No wonder anger gets a bad rep, but here is the catch. It doesn't have to be this way. Anger vastly is misunderstood. And scientists say that anger is not completely a negative emotion. You have to learn how to harness it. If you don't shut down your anger, but you channel it, actually it can help you. According to research, anger can be a great motivator, more effective in motivating people than a neutral emotional state. Anger can help you overcome obstacles and meet your goals. And if you don't repress it, it can actually help physically and emotionally. That's what experts are saying now, so you can make this anger to be able to work for you. For starters, accept it. Anger is one of the most primitive emotions, meaning feeling angry is as human as it gets. So accept and then unpack your anger. Experts say burying anger can also lead to despair, resentment, so you have to process it. Which brings us to the third step, and that is the problem solving. Anger may seem blinding, but it can also provide clarity. It can make you aware of what you are feeling angry about and what you are not happy about, so you can come up with a solution, maybe your personal concerns to address, or maybe a bone to pick with someone, and that doesn't have to be bad. Studies say expressing anger and having confrontation discussions can sometimes improve relationships. But while you process anger, be careful about how you blow out of the steam. Sometimes improve relationships, but while you process anger, be careful about how you blow it out. Well, research has proved that venting does not help. Neither does smashing anger, does smashing things. It causes your anger to escalate further than diminish. Instead, science urges you to try activities that calm you down. For example, like taking a deep breath or listing down angry thoughts, then shredding the paper. I know it all sounds bizarre after all. When you want to throw a plate at someone, the last thing you think about is to look for a pen and a paper. But there is a middle ground here. So figure out what works for you. Then we'll give it a shot too. Then we'll share our notes later. Initiative midwifed by Kenya to restore political stability in the country. The president stated the initiative would complement the 2018 revitalized peace agreement for South Sudan and the peace process mediated by the Rome-based Sant Edigo community. On Thursday, Kenya President William Ruto launched mediation talks between Sudan, being able to bring peace to the nation. Listen in.
This gathering marks a pivotal moment in a historic journey, uniting stakeholders committed to ending conflict and political instability in South Sudan. This initiative exemplifies the Pan-African policy of African solutions to African challenges, contributing to the silencing of guns in Africa initiative and fostering an environment of transformational development in South Sudan, our region, and possibly the entire continent.
After this launch, we plan to engage in a sustained and continuous mediation to find and to ensure speedy and comprehensive resolution of the issues, so long as the parties go along with the plan.
We hope that opposition groups have a similar conviction and a desire for peace in South Sudan, which when fully achieved, will bring everlasting stability and economic development.
Well, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, urged the African countries to optimize the use of existing continental assets to boost local fertilizer production and deliver quality fertilizers to African farmers during a session on the Fertilizer Soil Health Summit 2024 held on Thursday in Nairobi. He stressed that African countries depended mostly on imported fertilizers, which made them very expensive for the farmers. In 2006, the African Union adopted the Abuja Declaration on Fertilizer for the Africa Green Revolution, aimed to reverse the trend of poor productivity of the African soils. Kenya President William Ruto as well highlighted on the Africa having 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, which was the central potential for economic growth, stressing it was fundamental for African status to entrench production incentives by leveraging the African Continental Free Trade Area to enhance market access and profitability for farmers. Here is more.
In terms of fertilizer use, Africa is below the global average and the target set by African head of state and government. In 2006, where they endorsed the Abuja Declaration on Fertilizer for a Green Revolution in Africa, with a target of 50 kilograms per hectare per year. 18 years later, the average fertilizer use rate stands at about 18 kilograms, less than half of the target set in 2006. We have a responsibility to learn and apply the lesson on why this gap remains.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Africa has 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land. That potential is immense. And unlocking that potential is central to our economic growth. Because unlocking that potential not only gives us an opportunity to feed our people and this continent, but also it gives us an opportunity for us to engage in agro-processing, value addition, manufacturing with agro-based raw materials. And that is why it is important that we leverage on the Pan-African initiative and integration that will provide a basis to harness research, science, and technology to develop a robust African soil information system, support a community of soil health experts across various sectors, and enhance.
Well, that's so much coming from Kenya. Now, moving on to the Israeli-Hamas conflict. Now, during the press briefing close Al Jazeera, underlining on the importance of media freedom through the United States opposing this action, advocating for the ability of all Al Jazeera to operate in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu cabinet has unanimously voted the shutdown of the Al Jazeera operations in Israel through the Knesset passing the law allowing the temporary closure of foreign broadcasters considered a threat to the national security. Here is more.
So we have seen the announcement from the government of Israel about closing Al Jazeera. We have made quite clear that we support media freedom all around the world, including in Israel, and that we are quite concerned about this action. We will continue to support and advocate for free and independent media around the world. We think Al Jazeera ought to be able to operate in Israel as they operate in other countries in the region.
So you oppose?
We do.
Well, in a groundbreaking conservation effort, two critically endangered mountain bongos were reintroduced into the world of the slopes of Mount Kenya. This initiative, led by the Mount Kenya Wildlife Conservancy, marking a crucial step in the preservation of these majestic creatures, whose population has dwindled to less than 100 in the world. The mountain bongos used to roam freely in the Mount Kenya forest, but due to the various threats such as poaching and disease outbreaks, their numbers have plummeted to alarming levels. By reintroducing them into the natural habitat, there is hope to reverse this trend and ensure the survival of the species. The process of the reintroduction involved a careful preparation to ensure the bongos could have thrived in the wild, and once again, unconfined, these bongos will have to play a vital role in maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. Here is more.
Have reintroduced them again on the Mount Kenya, within the Mount Kenya forest, which we know is a former bongo range. The bongos used to live there, and now today we witnessed another occasion where these animals again have been sent back to their wild home in their former range. Poaching for bushmeat, then live trade for those who wanted to keep mountain bongos, and then also hunting because of their trophies, skin and the horns. That brought the numbers of bongos to go solo, and that crushed the population to less than 100 individuals, and its recovery has been so slow in the wild, and that's why now the only possible route for recovery was to breed the mountain bongo and then rewild.
Well, that's big news coming from Kenya, and that international news brings us to our first break. There's more coming up for you. Next, we'll talk about the call to protect the Jewish students amidst the ongoing protests, an initiative from the United States. And the United States has warned it will stop shipments to Israel if they invade Rafah. We'll also get to talk about the Paris Olympic 2024 and the Japan delicacy called the armpit rice balls. You cannot afford to miss out. We have this and more lined up for you shortly after the break. Stay tuned with us.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak,
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
about how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified,
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
he was crucified to pay for our
그래서
sins.
예수님 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching The Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you on board this day. Now, as we continue, The Republican lawyers took a firm stance against the ongoing pro-Palestinian protests, calling for measures to ensure the safety of the Jewish students on the college during a heated discussion in Washington on Wednesday that strongly condemned the ongoing pro-Palestinian protests. Advocating for the protection of the Jewish students amidst the escalating tensions, and during a heated discussion, Senator Blake Moore of Utah underlined on the commitment of ensuring the safety of the Jewish students on the campuses nationwide, while Senator Roger Williams of Texas echoed these sentiments, calling for the strict measures against the students engaging in the anti-Semitic activities, suggesting that they could be barred from accessing student loans and forgiveness programs. Pro-Palestinian protest camps have sprung up on campuses across the United States, with students urging their institutions to sever ties with Israel in the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Law enforcement have intervened with the hundreds of arrested reported, particularly in New York and Los Angeles, as they work to dismantle these protest camps. U.S. President Joe Biden also recently addressed the camps, claiming that he supported peaceful protest, but violent protest was not protected, adding that vandalism, trespassing, and disrupting campus activities were not protected under the pretext of peaceful protest. Listen in.
They have allowed dangerous and harmful protests to overrun their campuses, putting Jewish students and community members in danger. We will not stop until Jewish students feel safe on their campuses. Again, this is a basic fundamental right.
Authorities have turned a blind eye as these hateful people continue to destroy property, deface statues, and burn the American flag. There must be consequences. We must respect our nation, protect our schools and our students. This is not free speech, and there are not peaceful protesters in this group. These are terrorists, hiding behind masks and using violence, threats, and intimidation to control Jewish and Israeli students. Today, I'm proud to introduce the No Student Loan Forgiveness for Anti-Semitic Criminals Act, which would bar any student who is arrested for engaging in anti-Semitic activities within the United States from receiving student loan forgiveness through federal income-driven repayment programs. I can guarantee that defunding violent gender studies majors will end this chaos immediately. No one should feel unsafe on campus. Anti-Semitism is a virus that we cannot allow to spread. And let us not forget, on October 7th, 2024, Israel was brutally attacked by Hamas, and we must stand with Israel as they protect the future of Israel and the Jewish people.
I've heard directly from Jewish students at our elite universities who have seen anti-Semitic mobs up close, darned in their terrorist scarf while shouting in support of the terrorist group Hamas. As a House Republican majority with committee oversight and the power of the purse, we're going to do the people's will and put an end to this Marxist indoctrinated bigotry. We're putting all options on the table as we demand our educational institutions step up, do the right things, and protect our Jewish students.
Will the United States President Joe Biden send his strongest message yet to Israel? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stating he will stop the supply of weapons to Israel if he launched an all-out attack on Rafah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also shut down all Al Jazeera's operation, through Al Jazeera correspondents now reporting from outside of Israel. As the gulf between U.S. and Israel widens, it has emerged the Biden administration paused the shipment of bombs to Israel last week over concerns that Israel would imminently attack the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Here is more.
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs. They go into Rafah. I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah. I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go into these population centers.
Israel shouldn't launch a major attack into Rafah without accounting for and protecting the civilians that are in that battle space. And again, as we have assessed the situation, we paused one shipment of high payload munitions.
I believe that Israel and America have an ironclad relationship, and I have faith in what the Biden administration is doing.
I continue to express my concern to the administration that the delay of shipment of weapons to Israel is just another way of trying to tell an ally how to conduct the war.
Well, that's much from the United States. Now, moving on to Olympic. As Olympic Burn Down began Thursday, that is May 9th, through its 11th week journey across mainland overseas with France, as the torch relay continues with various luminaries from different fields, as basketball star Tony Parker is poised to take up the mantle from fencing champions to Michelin-starred up chefs with a diverse array of individuals that will carry out the flame, symbolizing unity and diversity. Listen in.
The Olympic torch began Thursday, May 9th, for its 11-week journey across mainland and overseas France. Former footballer Basile Boli carried the flames through the streets of the French southern port city of Marseille. Boli, who played with the Marseille team in the 1990s, launched the first relay from the Notre Dame de la Garde Basilica that overlooks Marseille and the Mediterranean.
I'm very proud, because I see my city, Marseille, amazing. So I'm very happy to do that.
About 10,000 bearers will carry the torch, which will pass through more than 450 towns until the Games open ceremony in Paris on July 26th. Passed the flame to doyen fan of the Marseille Football Club, Olympique de Marseille Colette Cataldo. On Wednesday, May 8th, Marseille celebrated the flame's arrival with great fanfare, with more than 230,000 people at the ceremony in the Old Port. The torch was lit in Greece.
Well, that's so much on Olympics. Now, our next story, we are going to talk about food. Actually, it is a Japanese delicacy. Have you ever heard of onigiri? It is a Japanese snack, almost 100 years old, but the country is giving it a new twist. It is adding a secret ingredient. We are talking of human sweat. You heard that right. Young women are shaping onigiri balls under their armpits. And these sell 10 times more than the price of normal onigiri. And it's even the worst, not the worst bizarre delicacy. There are far worse ones. I'm sorry, I know it's mealtime for many. So viewers, maybe you have to put down your plates. This next story, trust me, you'll thank us later. Now moving on to this story of onigiri, of Japanese staple where you take some sort of meat and vegetables. They shape rice around it, and then that is wrapped in seaweed, and all this is done by hand. The dish is portable, easy to eat, and the Japanese love it. But the beloved Japanese dish is getting now a new twist. A secret sauce, if you could say so, and that is human sweat. You heard that right. Maybe Japan decided the dish needed some umami, so they utilized the natural umami essence of the sweat glands. Well, the dish is being prepared by young women. They use their armpits to roll the balls, and this is how they do it. First, they get completely disinfected. Then these women exercise, and this is to produce the sweat, which is the master ingredient. And finally, they get down to rolling the balls. They use their armpits instead of their palms. The finished product is apparently a delicacy, and it sells for ridiculous prices, almost 10 times that of a normal onigiri. Of course, the reactions have been quite mixed. And one diner said it tasted no different, but others have some questions. And that question is, why does it need to be done in the first place? Plus, what about hygiene? What if the person making it was sick? Will it follow after eating it then? But sweat isn't even the remotely worst thing in food. There have been far worse. I'll take you deeper next time. But clearly, this dish is not for the faint-hearted. It is one thing to find flavor for food, but another when the flavor comes from human body. We'll take a moment. And that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global News. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. I've been your ambassador, Jennifer Macau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Ambassador GBS Global on Monday. Same time, same place at 1 p.m. I wish you all switching to weekends a brilliant weekend. Stay safe. And for everyone else on board, may you all have a superb and the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. See you then.